So thank you everyone for joining us today for this Earth Day event with Rebecca Eccles. We will give people a few more minutes to join us before we get underway. Thank you for joining us for today's presentation with Rebecca Eccles. I am going to give everyone just about one more minute before we get started. Okay, thank you for attending the special April 2021 Transportation U AZ Earth Day event. Transportation U is a national hands-on interactive mentoring program that offers young girls ages 13 through 18 an introduction in a wide variety of transportation careers. It is connected to Women's Transportation Seminar, or WTS, which is a women's organization for transportation professionals. I am Michael Book, a strategic communication specialist in HDR's Phoenix office. HDR is an international company specializing in engineering, architecture, environmental, and construction services. If you have any program or event questions, you can send me an email at michael.book@hdrinc.com. My email address is being placed in the chat right now. This event is also supported by Shelby Blashford, Engagement Specialist at WTS International, and Bree Belke, Community Relations Coordinator at Valley Metro. Before we get started, I would like to briefly discuss the Transportation U program. Each month throughout the school year, there will either be an online speaker or online facility tour. There is nothing scheduled during the summer months. You can always stay connected to learn about upcoming events or recorded sessions by connecting on Facebook or Instagram using the keywords Transportation U AZ. And now for today's events. Rebecca Eccles graduated from Arizona State University with a BS in Sustainability in 2012. She spent 2 years working with the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality as a solid waste inspector, 1 year as a permit writer, and just under 3 years working for an aggregate mining company as an environmental specialist. She began her career at Boeing in April of 2018 as the Enterprise Recycling Program Coordinator. Her duties have expanded to include broader conservation work, and she now holds the title of Utilities Conservation Program Coordinator. She is in her final semester at ASU and is on track to obtain her master's in business administration in May 2021, so coming up. In her free time, she enjoys spending time with her family, hiking, and trying new recipes. Rebecca, so nice to have you today, and thanks for joining us on Earth Day.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very excited. All right, everybody. I'll go ahead and get started. So first of all, thank you for the invite. I'm very pleased that you guys asked me to present of all days on Earth Day. So first and foremost, before I talk about Rebecca, I'm just going to say happy Earth Day, everybody, and I encourage everyone to make every day a celebration of our Earth, our planet, and also encourage you guys every single day to try to identify ways that you personally can make an impact, whether it's reducing your energy usage, reducing the waste you're generating, the water. We all can take little actions every single day that truly add up to something big. So again, happy Earth Day and thank you. All right, so I'm going to talk about something I'm an expert at, and that's myself. My name is Rebecca Eccles. Currently, as Michael mentioned, I am the Utilities Conservation Program Coordinator at Boeing. I'll get into what exactly I do with Boeing a little bit later, but first I wanted to kind of take you through who I am, my career path, some lessons learned, and then what I do currently at Boeing and the group I'm in. So as Michael mentioned, I did get my BS in sustainability with an emphasis in ecosystems from ASU. I am currently a return devil getting my Master's of Business Administration or MBA. I will officially be graduated in a week and a half. So this has been a long time coming. I'm very excited. Not only was I the first in my family to get a bachelor's degree, but I will be the first in my family to get a master's. So I'm super excited and super ready to have some additional time, free time in my life to go volunteer and do some other items that I'm really passionate about. As mentioned earlier, I love hiking, traveling. When I travel, I go hiking as well. Cooking, new recipes, fitness, and of course, spending time with my family. So I'm a very visual person. So on the right-hand side of the screen, you guys can see some snapshots that I've put up. We are all much more than what our job titles are or appearances. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into who I am and what I enjoy doing. So the top center photo, you can see there's me on the left with a big backpack, and that gentleman to the right is my husband. We backpacked the redwood forest, and somehow I was able to finagle my camera positioned on a little stump to take a photograph of us in this huge redwood tree. Very cool stuff. On the right-hand side, that's a snapshot I took of us when we were hiking in Bryce Canyon in Utah. Below that is when we went to Havasupai in Arizona. We hiked down 10 miles, backpacked for a few days, and hiked back up, an experience of a lifetime. To the left of that, or in the center of the page, is a beautiful photo of Zion National Park. We just recently went there in Bryce Canyon. If you've not been, strongly encourage you to go. Absolutely breathtaking scenery. And then that picture, all the way to the left in the center, you see those two gorgeous girls. Those are my babies. I'm a dog mom. I have two German Shepherds, Willow and Pepper. They are also currently my coworkers, as I've been working from home like many folks have been for the last year. So if you hear some barking, that's those two beauties right there. And then there's also a snapshot down there of when we hiked the Nepali coast in Kauai, Hawaii, and a snapshot of when we hiked in Washington. So again, just wanted to share some of the things that I like to do in my personal time, but also this is a great representation of the career path I chose in sustainability. I'm an avid hiker. I love seeing all these beautiful monuments we have across this beautiful country, and really want to encourage folks to preserve them and do everything we can to benefit our planet and the people who live in it. All right, so I'm going to take it back a little bit. High school and college. So I went to high school in Gilbert, Arizona, Mesquite High to be exact. Some things that I did in high school, I was in orchestra. I played the viola for several years. Really didn't know what I wanted to do. I'm going to be honest with you. So I really commend folks who have a path that they know what they want to do right away. I didn't decide what I wanted to do in life till the end of high school, till the very end. I Originally was going to go to ASU to study art, love art. I still paint in my free time, but that wasn't the career path I wanted. I knew an individual who was a bit older than me, currently attending ASU, and they started talking to me about the program they were in. And it was a newer program at ASU, and it was their sustainability program. And as you guys are probably more than aware, sustainability looks at 3 components. So the planet or the environment, people, and the economic component, and how all those interrelate with one another. And essentially, a lot of my schoolwork was focused on addressing problems from a multitude of angles to understand each of these dimensions, because you can't just address something just strictly by looking at the environment. There's a people component, there's a financial or economic component, and really instilled critical thinking within us to look at different problem situations with that whole scope. So the photo I have there with the big black sunglasses, that is me at 16, so about 15 years ago. The little girl with the white sunglasses is my niece, who is now almost 18 years old, and she'd kill me if she knew I had this photo up. But that's the only photo I could actually find from high school. But great time in my life. So college, as you guys know, I went to Arizona State. I decided to study on sustainability. And since my focus was in ecosystems, I was able to take a handful of different biology classes. Another item that is near and dear to my heart are birds. And my favorite course was actually vertebrate zoology. It's kind of a mouthful. What does that mean? Essentially, we looked at the most simple species, anywhere from a sea squirt or a tunicate all the way up to cats, dogs, and the evolution as time goes on throughout that. But we also had a course where you would dissect these animals and could see the progression of basic organ function. So I thought that was very fascinating. This also caused me to get connected with a graduate student at Arizona State University who was conducting bird research on house finches. So that little illustration you see there of 2 gorgeous birds are house finches. You guys probably see them in your backyard when you're out and about. And essentially what we would do would collect some of these birds and put them in different environments to see how they reacted and to see how fit they were compared to birds who were more suburban, birds who were collected from more rural areas, and to see which ones were essentially more fit. I graduated in May of 2012. That picture down there on the right-hand side is me and my now husband. We're going to be taking that very same picture pretty soon. Again, I graduate in a week and a half, and I am ecstatic about it. So my career, I'm going to be taking you guys through my career post-college. So obviously, while I was in college, while I was in high school, was a receptionist, was a childcare worker, did a whole bunch of other jobs, but I really wanted to focus on post-college, the track I took. So graduating in May of 2012, I had applied to several different positions within the environmental field. I felt that was where I wanted to go. So right out of college, there was a temporary position to work for the Audubon Society in Phoenix. And what this position was an education assistant. So there were summer programs where children would apply to be able to attend this program, and they would come and we would teach them about the local floral and fauna, at the lovely Nina Mason Pulliam facility in Phoenix. If you haven't been, I encourage you to go. It's lovely, it's wonderful. So that was a temporary position just for that summer time frame. And then while I was working there, I got the invitation to join the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality. So the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality is our state environmental regulatory agency. The job that I held there was environmental specialist, solid waste. So what did this entail? Essentially, I went all over the state inspecting various types of facilities, doing routine inspections of landfills, transfer stations, tire areas. We also responded to any kind of solid waste or trash complaints. So when I say solid waste too, I know that's not something that's in everybody's vocabulary. I'm referring to essentially trash or garbage. So I went to a lot of these regulated facilities, inspected them. We were able to provide outreach on different solid waste related items, and also make sure that facilities were in compliance. So I spent 2 years there and then moved on to a company called Brown and Caldwell. This was a little bit more short-lived. I was, Brown and Caldwell is an environmental consulting firm, and I was a permit writer for 1 year. I missed going out in the field and having that hands-on approach, and wanted to do something that was a little bit more focused back on environmental instead of just the permitting aspect. So I worked for a company called Cal Portland, really great company locally. They're also based in Washington, California, Nevada, and they are an aggregate mining company. So they essentially mine big rocks, crush them, make them into littler rocks, and sell those. They also manufacture concrete and cement. And what I did for them is between Phoenix and Tucson, I helped with maintaining compliance of concrete batch plants. So plants where they're making concrete, loading them into those big concrete trucks you'll see driving around with the big spinning drum. There's a lot of different rules and regulations that go in place to ensure that we're not negatively impacting the environment. So I was there just under 3 years, and really decided I wanted, there were components of my last job that were related to sustainability, but I really wanted to get back to those sustainability roots and do it 100% of the time. So that's where Boeing came into place. As I mentioned earlier, my initial position was as a solid waste and recycling program coordinator. So I'll get into what that means a little bit later too, as I go through my current roles, because it's still a big part of what I currently do at Boeing. So we'll revisit that. I just hit my 3-year mark with there. All right, so that was my work history. Again, we're going to cover exactly what I do at Boeing in just a pinch. But some items I really wanted to mention that helped me throughout my career path, whether it was commentary I received direct from interviewers as to why they selected my applications, and things that I've done that have just truly reinforced that this is what I want to do the rest of my life. So I discovered volunteering in college, I would say, when I volunteered to assist with bird research, and I loved it. There's nothing more rewarding than volunteering your time to something that's going to have a proven positive result or impact. At my last company, Cal Portland, I volunteered to be the environment chair for the Arizona Rock Products Association, a great association that really integrated well with the community and allowed us to do so many great community events. We did a charity softball event. There was an opportunity where we had donated, the organization had worked with a bunch of different folks to donate rock to help landscape a church in downtown Phoenix. So I helped with shoveling and placing a bunch of rock, doing grounds maintenance for a dog rescue. I'm a big dog lover, so being able to help those who are helping these pets get good homes, that was something truly rewarding for me. Yeah, it's hard work. You're out in the sun, sweating, you have a baseball cap on, but there's just nothing better than putting in the hard days of work and then seeing the results and how it positively impacts people. I volunteered at Wild at Heart Raptor Rescue. So you might hear raptor and think pterodactyls. No, raptors are actually birds of prey. So hawks, eagles, owls. For 2 years, I would go 1 day a week at night to prepare feedings for owls at night. So what Wild at Heart is is an organization that takes in injured, abandoned, orphaned birds of prey, gets them back to health, and releases them. Some of the birds that they intook were not releasable, but they were still alive, and they give them a wonderful life there. So again, being able to help these wonderful animals, going in once a week to provide feedings for them was fantastic. On a similar thread, I volunteered one summer with feeding baby birds at Liberty Wildlife, very similar to Wild at Heart, except they were taking in at the time songbirds. And you know how we get really windy monsoons. A lot of times you would see after that a huge influx of baby birds being brought in and needing to be fed, rehabilitated, and then re-released. I believe since then, Liberty has opened up a facility in downtown Phoenix that folks can go to. I haven't visited it yet, but that was a few years back when I volunteered with them. And also through Boeing, volunteering at an organization called Paz de Cristo. This is an organization where we were able to go in, prepare and serve meals to the homeless community, and really, again, helping our fellow men and women and children. You know, there's just something truly rewarding about being able to give back and helping others. So with my volunteering experience and professional experience, there have been a lot of lessons learned throughout my career that I wanted to share. You know, experience is a huge item. And that doesn't just mean, oh, experience of the different jobs you've done. That just means we're all going to encounter different hurdles in life, but from each of those hurdles, you grow, you gain something. One item that I learned very early on, it's okay to say, I don't know. Whether you're in a meeting or somebody's asking you a question about your work, there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, I don't know, or I'm not sure about that. Let me look into it and follow back up with you. But a keynote of that as well is actually following up. So make sure if you do say that to somebody, you are following up. The older you get, you just realize more and more that there is so much knowledge, there's so much information out there that you are not going to know everything, and that's okay. So, you know, being transparent with folks and letting them know, hey, I don't know, completely fine. But again, following up and letting them know once you find that answer or resource or information they were inquiring about. You want to leverage the strengths of others around you. This kind of goes to the same thread as I mentioned before. I am not going to know everything. I work in a team of brilliant people. They're my network. There's no way I'd be able to execute my job properly and efficiently without others. So I really leverage the strengths of others and their knowledge. One item is I'm not incredibly technical. I will say that upwards and downwards. I am not an incredibly technical person. I work with several engineers, again, who are wonderfully brilliant and wonderfully technical. So what I do if I don't understand something or I need assistance with a project I'm working on, I have no problem with tapping them on the shoulder and saying, hey, can you help me understand this a little better? Or I know that you're really good at doing X, Y, Z. Would you be able to assist me with this? Again, everybody has their own skill set, their own strengths. Really leverage those, and people are also going to in turn do that for you as well. I have people tapping on my shoulder as well for items that I exceed at to help them out. So again, you know, I love to say teamwork makes the dream work, but it essentially does. Listen and consider others' perspectives. This one is very, very, very important. In our personal lives, we're able to, we tend to surround ourselves with people who kind of think the same as us, have the same or similar communication styles. But when you are in a working environment, you are exposed to people from a bunch of different backgrounds with a bunch of different communication styles. For me, I'm more of a, hey, how are you doing? I want to kind of get to know you on a social element. There are some people who are not like that at all, which is not bad. They're not being curt, they're not being mean, but they're very task oriented. I'm very people oriented. So when I first got into the industry and encountered individuals who were more task oriented, at first I was like, oh, I don't think they like me. It wasn't that they didn't like me, they just operated differently. And I had to learn that others operate differently and how to respond to that and adjust how I communicate information with them. And also they had to communicate information to me. So really being open-minded too, as you're going throughout your career and life, you're going to encounter individuals who just operate differently. And we may perceive the way they present themselves or interact with you as a certain way. But again, sometimes it's just folks' communication styles are just different and we have to learn to adjust. If you make a mistake, be transparent. I would be lying to you if I said I've never made a mistake in my personal life and my professional life. But it's never good to conceal it. So I work a lot with data in all my positions. There have been times where I did something in the data and rather than being like, oh, I'm just going to cover it up, which is not a good idea, is to let someone know, hey, I noticed in this, I did this. This is how my plan of action that we can work through it. And you work through it. There's nothing wrong with being transparent and open about making a mistake. We all make mistakes. The thing is to be transparent, work through it, and then move on and have that as a learning lesson of when you go through other tasks or similar tasks in the future. Next, positivity is contagious. It definitely is contagious. So when I was right out of college and worked for the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality, I was a solid waste inspector. So to be frank, at times when you show up to someone's facility, they're not always happy to see an inspector showing up out of the blue. Or if you get a complaint call that you have to go out to, or someone's complaining about litter or something, folks generally are not happy. So what I've always done is I've maintained my composure, maintained being pleasant, where sometimes you have folks who are not. And by the end of the conversation, by the end of the interaction, you notice that the person physically comes down from being very heightened with emotion. So remember, positivity is contagious. Maintaining being positive in any situation is going to help you, whether someone is a little agitated, whether someone's stressed. Having a calm presence and a happy presence is going to help you through that situation. And then learning is a continuous thing. This is another one that I'd be lying if I didn't say this. I'm constantly learning something new. Granted, I'm in an MBA program right now, so the last 2 years of my life have been strictly focused on learning business, but learning is a continuous thing, whether it's in your day-to-day life, whether it's at your job. I'm constantly learning something new. So being open to learning new things is critical. So I had briefly mentioned in Cal Portland how I had a project that I did. This is really my baby. So at my former employer, Cal Portland, I had the wonderful opportunity of leading our burrowing owl project. And again, guys, I love pictures, so I wanted to share some of these with you. So I was the project manager of the burrowing owl habitat project at one of our sites. We worked very closely with that local nonprofit, Wild at Heart, that I had mentioned that I volunteered with for a couple years previously, to survey one of our sites to make sure that it was a suitable environment to instill these artificial habitats. And one of them was an ideal area. So what we did is got approval from our company. We're able to get our excavators out there. Essentially, we dug really big holes with really heavy equipment that we had located on the sites, placed the artificial habitats. And as you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a whole bunch of rocks, and you see these black tubes poking out. So those tubes led all the way down into the ground into these artificial habitats. So again, we dug big holes, put those habitats in it, covered the holes back up, and then constructed the entranceway for those habitats. Then what we did, that top picture, is we constructed these tents. So we constructed tents in which fully enclosed a section of these artificial habitats, so that when we released the owls, they were fully enclosed within these tents, within these areas, and we fed them and provided them with water for 30 days. So the intent of that was so that these owls could go, get comfortable in these homes, get settled in, and then after that 30 days, we had another volunteer event, take down everything, and essentially hoping that they imprinted within that area and didn't want to move. So one of the great things that we were able to do too through that organization is they had a long skinny camera, and they stuck that camera down there, excuse me, and were able to see that some of the owls had laid eggs. So that for me was a super cool project, especially because I love birds, I love owls. And that picture on the bottom left-hand side is a photo I snapped of one of our little guys there. So it was a really cool opportunity. And again, helping with sustainability, one of the creatures on our planet whose habitats are getting gobbled up. All right, so I'm switching gears again. So within Boeing, I work in our corporate sustainability organization. More specifically, the team I work in is our global utilities and energy team. So I work in a team, very admittedly, of super cool folks. My manager has 20 years of energy experience working in the automotive industry. He also did nuclear engineering in the Navy. One gentleman has been in the construction industry and energy efficiency industry 30 years. Another gentleman is well-versed in renewable energy. And then another gal is a water expert and over 10 years of experience with water conservation and efficiency and water treatment. So I am incredibly pleased to be in a team with these folks. They're just super on top of it, super knowledgeable. But what our group does is help with Boeing's reduction initiatives. So as you guys can see in that bottom right-hand picture, Boeing has established goals for 2025, and those are based off of a 2017 baseline. So we're looking to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 25%, reduce our water consumption or use by 20%, reduce the waste that we're sending to landfill by 20%, reducing our energy consumption by 10%, and reducing hazardous waste by 5%. So this is a snippet taken from Boeing's annual environment report, which actually presents to the public. Excuse me, I got a little frog in my throat. Our progress towards meeting these goals. So my team works with a group of sites across the states, as well as in Canada and Australia on all of these items. So reducing energy, water, waste, increasing our renewable energy and green energy options. We work closely with utilities to obtain this data to see exactly how we're doing. We track the data, obviously, to know from where we were at 2017 to 2025. We're tracking data monthly, see how sites are doing, see how we're doing as a company. Some highlights from my team are that the team has worked incredibly with many other teams across the company to be selected as the Partner of the Year for Sustained Excellence for Energy Star for the 11th consecutive year. Now, if you're not familiar what Energy Star is, it is it's a program with the U.S. EPA, so the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and a bunch of companies, big and small, submit applications every year to address the items they've done with reducing energy waste, increasing conservation initiatives. And so the fact that this is Boeing's 11th year as being awarded with the Partner of the Year is fantastic. I'm super proud of the company, super proud to be a part of this team that's helped contribute with this. We also work on Battle of the Buildings. So Battle of the Buildings is a really cool thing that we do internally, where we have company-wide competitions to reduce our environmental impact or footprint. A couple years ago, since I am the solid waste and recycling focal, we had a competition for sites across the company to see who could reduce their waste. Again, it's a friendly competition, but we do, there's a lot of cool communications, cool activities that the sites do, and really work to get employees engaged around, the environment and reducing our environmental impact. We also have the annual Environmental Leadership Awards. This is, again, an internal recognition program where folks are submitting applications around water, waste, hazardous waste, energy, protection and compliance to receive awards and highlights for the great work they've done. We also have Environment Champion nominations, which are applications received for individuals who go above and beyond. They're wonderful stewards. They help promote the environment. They're truly internal leaders. So that's something I also work closely with as well. So that was a lot of the stuff that my team does, but there's so much more. And a lot of that was not just the work of my team. We have greater teams that we work with that are truly incremental. And again, I can't stress this enough. Your teamwork makes the dream work. You're going to work with folks across different industries, folks across different organizations, whichever company you are in, to truly render successful and great results. So my primary role, I've touched on it a little bit. I am the Enterprise Solid Waste and Recycling Focal. So what does this mean? I help with communicating company-wide standards around solid waste and recycling. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you see a 3-bin system. What that bin system is that at a majority of our Boeing sites, we have an enhanced recycling program. What this does is removes the desk side cans away from folks' desks. So when they have to go sort their trash, they have to get up and walk and go to these sorting stations. This is to increase diverting waste from the landfill. So again, encouraging recycling, encouraging composting. So that's more of a standard approach at our sites. We have individuals at each of our sites who are called solid waste focals. And these are the individuals who are truly doing the work. They're working with site stakeholders to place these containers, working with conservation focals to ensure that employees know what goes in recycling, what goes in composting if available, and updating signage, communication, employee engagement around waste. So I work a lot with these individuals, and they're also tracking the waste by looking at the data. Again, how I mentioned earlier, we track that data across the company to look at our performance, see how we're doing, and identifying opportunities where we need to do a little bit more, or repeating items that were successful at one plant. So again, I work with a bunch of different folks who are at the sites really driving waste reduction. Another one is leading conservation best practices. This is a little bit more broader than waste. It still encompasses waste, but what conservation best practices is an enterprise or company-wide approach focused on low to no cost tasks that the sites can do to reduce energy use, water use, and waste. So again, I'm working with a lot of different sites to ensure that they understand the tasks, the deliverables, and there if I can provide any help needed or make any connections for them. We also have a program called the Energy Conservation Coordinator Program. I know that's a lot, but essentially it's a new program that we have at Boeing where we have individuals who are at 2 of our sites, and they're 100% dedicated to identifying energy and water reduction initiatives. So again, you're probably seeing a theme right here for my role, a lot around reducing our environmental impact. And again, I'm a thin slice of a huge pie of individuals who are working towards our reductions at Boeing on this. I lead the Environmental Leadership Awards and Environment Champion applications that I mentioned earlier. So I get to see all these applications of great stuff that folks are doing, anywhere from India to Winnipeg, Canada, to, of course, Arizona, and just across the company with trying to have a positive impact on the environment. So it's a global program. It's wonderful to see all of these homegrown initiatives. Obviously participating in planning for Earth Day events and our internal Battle of the Buildings, which are aligned with Earth Day. We currently just kicked off a Battle of the Buildings around 60 seconds for the environment. So it's really cool stuff. Again, friendly competitions to really reduce our impact on the environment. What better time to kick it off than Earth Day? And then so much more. There's always so much more to do. As time goes on, there's always random projects that I get involved with, again, circling around sustainability. So it's a great job. And, I told you the path it took me to get here, but it's been really rewarding. And, as time goes on, my lessons learned are probably going to evolve. My position's probably going to evolve, but it's never a straight line path to get to where you want to be. But really valuing your experiences is truly something that's going to benefit you. You're going to have lessons learned. You're going to find out what you like, what you don't like, and obtain tools that can help you succeed further. So I appreciate it, guys. That's it for Rebecca.
Thank you so much, Rebecca, for your presentation today. So for everyone else at this time, if you do have any questions, please either type them in the Q&A section or in the chat. If you would like to ask a question directly to Rebecca, you can click at the bottom of your screen on participants, then click on the raise your hand option. Bree will then call your name and unmute you so you can ask your question. After your question has been asked and addressed, please click the raise your hand option again so your raised hand is removed. So go ahead and submit your questions or raise your hand now. Bree, do we have any questions coming in?
Yeah, so one of the questions we got in is, do you get to travel for your job? Which I think is a great question.
Yes. So I will say that with a caveat. This last year, obviously, I have not been able to travel, but pre-COVID, I've been able to travel to South Carolina, Washington, California. A part of my job is to go to these sites and to understand what's going on at these sites, where I can help, and truly understand their operations so that I have greater insight to what's going on in areas of improvement.
Okay, and another one would be, what's the most challenging part of your current job?
Oh, I would say something I mentioned earlier, the most challenging part is identifying the communication and working styles of the individuals you are working with. That's going to be for the current position, former positions. Again, people have such different operating rhythms, and it's not bad. It's not bad at all, but learning how you need to change to help them understand and communicate, and them learning how you communicate, sometimes just finding that balance. And that's the most challenging part, which, as time goes on, you kind of pick up little tips and tricks, but yeah, it's still always challenging.
That's a really good point you mentioned, because especially with COVID and working from home versus working from the office, you're always working on that communication skill set with your coworkers and your team. So that's a really good point. Another question we had in was, what advice would you give someone who is unsure about their career path?
I'm sorry, my girls are making a cameo. Can you repeat that question?
Sure thing. What advice would you give to somebody who is unsure about their career path?
Yes. So if you can hear me through the barks, I would truly encourage you, if there's anything you're interested in, go for it. Volunteer, talk to people. I was very, very, very shy and timid in high school. The thought alone of speaking to you on this Zoom call would have terrified me. But as you get more comfortable in life, you realize that you find out somebody does a certain thing in a certain industry and you're like, oh, that sounds really interesting. Talk to them about it. See if there are opportunities to volunteer within that field, to do a tag along with them. You know, that's really how I got sucked into really liking sustainability, is just all these little volunteer events, talking to people and helping figure out my path.
I think that's a really great answer and super helpful, especially with the volunteering. I don't have any other questions in our chat or in the question and answer section. Let's see if any hands are raised. I don't see any, so definitely raise your hand if you've got a question. If not, I will send it back over to Michael.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for Rebecca's presentation. This session has been recorded and will be available on the WTS Metro Phoenix chapter website. And the next day, I will send meeting participants the link to access. The link will also be available on the Transportation UAZ, Facebook and Instagram social media sites. So please forward the recorded virtual event link to other teachers, students, and other individuals who might be interested. And please encourage them to join future events or see the other recorded sessions. In addition, go to those sites for information for the upcoming program events. So as I mentioned, this is done throughout the school year. So we do have one more session left, and I hope you please consider attending the final Transportation UAZ event of the 2020-2021 school year. And our May event speaker will be Young Kaprowski, who is principal and CEO at Y2K Engineering. This event is scheduled for Tuesday, May 4th at noon Arizona time. Once again, I am Michael Book. If you have any program or event questions, please send me an email at michael.book@hdrinc.com. And again, thank you to Rebecca Eccles for presenting, and thanks to everyone who joined us today for this event. Have a good day.
Thank you guys. Happy Earth Day.
Happy Earth Day.